fight breast cancer, to prevent breast cancer, and that is Miss Stephanie Parker. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning. Glad to have you here, Stephanie. Continue, please.
My last item is a bid recommendation approval for the Integrated Mosquito Management Program. During our recent solicitation for bid, the Integrated Mosquito Management Program, the purchasing department has provided a list of suppliers with the lowest bid. Actually, we had one bid. Therefore, we are requesting your approval on the vendor for the lowest bid for the Integrated Mosquito Management Program, which is vector disease control. I have sent you a packet, and I'm asking for your approval on this.
Mr. President,
Let me go ahead and go with Mr. Stokes. He wanted to
Thank you.
talk about this. Go ahead, Mr. Stokes.
Mr. President, I move that we reject all bids. I think that's part of the contract, and my reason is, from talking to Ms. Woods, we were looking at, what, 100 and... How much was it? Ms. Woods?
For this fiscal year, it'll be $130,832 is the December.
$130,000.
Actually, that amount has changed.
I'm sorry?
Actually, that amount has changed. For the rest of this year, that amount is actually $81,750.
$81,750. Okay, and Ms. Woods, you had what, $130,000 and what?
$800.32 on Friday.
Yes, but that
Okay,
is
you had that on Friday, and that's one reason I'm asking Mr. President that we reject all bids, and that's part of the contract. And let's open this process back up. The reason I'm asking that we reject all bids, at one point we received notices that the airplane issue was taken out. Some wonder why was it ever put in, and then we received some kind of notice that something else was excluded out, which was a deal with the cost situation, and it just muddy up the water to move forward now. My first motion is to reject all bids. I so move.
Okay, it's been moved. Before let me do that, go to Supervisor Hunter, then we'll come back to the motion. Supervisor Hunter, do you have something you want?
Yeah, I just want to comment a little bit about it. I was reading some of the information on this process, and Mr. What's your name, sir? Mr. Williams kind of brought me, gave me an update on it, and I'm still trying to get it in my mind what are we doing. It's not an eradication of mosquito type service, and then the service areas that kind of jumps out and it kind of concerns me is that it's service in non-incorporated areas. That means
It's supposed to be included in subdivisions, is it not?
No, it's unincorporated. Unincorporated. Continue, Supervisor.
What areas are we serving? We're not serving, even in the unincorporated area, we're not on public, we're not on private land, we just driving down road easements or something of that nature.
Okay.
But then the other thing that jumps out at me, you got a kind of graduating scale on the price. We started out, I think we looked at 130-something thousand, and then we went to 100, we prorated it, and now you're saying we have 80-something thousand, and then the next year or so we'll be at 190,000. And I don't know the metrics or measuring of the success. How do we measure the success of this program? Do we measure by how many people get ill from a mosquito-borne disease, or do we? I think Mr. Williams mentioned something about GPS. How do we track a mosquito with a GPS? Do we put it on his wing?
You put a little chip in there.
They catch it.
I've been following the mosquito situation for some time, and my concern is that is it going to be effective? If we have a storm let's say we have a storm coming from the coast, and you ever familiar with love bugs, these black bugs? Every time the wind blows during the hurricane season, we are infested with these things. So we spray here and the wind blows.
Okay.
What we got a problem. So that's nice.
Okay, Mr. Williams and Mr. Jackson, I think they were individuals that did this particular bid. Do you want to respond? Come to the podium, please. Because I do know there's some questions regarding it, and whether or not you're able to answer those questions.
We'd rather vote yes too.
And then what we'll do is we'll see if we have a motion on the floor from Supervisor Stokes, and then we'll go to that for a second.
But sir, when I was explaining to you the GPS, it had to do with trap locations, so we would always be able to go and find those traps to know where those mosquitoes were, and you would be able to do it through GPS, not trapping individual mosquitoes and attaching them. That was not the intent. But we're not talking about mosquito spraying. Mosquito spraying is actually the last resort. We're actually talking about a year-round integrated mosquito management program that includes year-round testing for larvae to try to destroy those things in the water before they ever get airborne. And if you don't have traps and all those other things, you don't have any idea of really knowing what it is that you have or how to treat them. There are only 4 types of mosquitoes that are associated with West Nile, but if you don't do trapping and do all the other follow-up, you have no way of knowing where they are or when they're in your community. So we're not just talking about spraying. It's a year-round program that involves all those activities. The only reason that aerial spraying was included in there might be a circumstance where we, on the emergency, have had to do that, and that was just an option that we allowed all the companies to bid on whether or not they had that and whether or not they wanted to include it, and to give it as a fixed price separate from the overall integrated mosquito management program that we are trying to do.
All right,
Good morning. Yeah. Good morning, Supervisors. When we first put this packet together, first off, Clarence went to get certified so that somebody in the county knew what was going on. He got certified, we put the package together, we investigated a lot of things that are being done in other areas, and really how to control the West Nile virus throughout and working with the CDC. Dr. Presley gave Clarence some very good information. The bid and the bid packet that was put out was structured around that. Then when we did put the package out, and the reason that we reduced the items, the 2 items in particular, Supervisor Stokes spoke about, was you couldn't get anybody to qualify other than one vendor that bid on it. You had 2 other vendors. Those vendors were out of state, and they would not go forth with the bid because they could not put the assets here that was needed in Hinds County to fulfill this. In doing so, we did some other investigation, we did some other work. First off, you have Raymond and Edwards, which is 2 cities in this county, and the city of Jackson that is using this process. You also have 587 square miles in your unincorporated area that is not being covered by anything at this point in time. With that, the County of Harrison put out this very same bid, all right? The numbers that the County of Harrison received for this process is $409,000 a year, which, yes, granted, they have a little more populated area, but in taking that and comparing it to their miles against Hinds County's miles, you're looking at that cost would still cost you $300,000 a year based on the same pricing that they receive. In conjunction with this, the reason you received the $81,750 is because when we originally put this bid out, it had to be adjusted on a prorated scale for the remainder of the year. There's only 5 months remaining in the year, and your basic price for your next 2 years is $196,200. which of course if you prorate that out by months, then that's how the 81,750 came about.
Okay.
We also,
Go ahead.
quick, we also have the vendor here that can explain in detail, if you'd like to hear from them, as far as this abatement program. It is being used widely across the state, widely across other areas, and it's very effective. One of the requirements in there is that they provide this board a report every other week as far as the mosquito population and what is out there and what is possibly out there, and the reduction. The aerial spraying, as an example, and the Supervisor Hunter brought up about the love bugs and et cetera. If we had a hurricane, if aerial spray is needed, they will still use aerial spray. And in order to also qualify for this bid, there's several licenses required by the state and the federal government now, and there's no one else in the county, in the state, that is located within the state that has those licenses.
Okay, we go with Dr. Walker, then Supervisor Stokes.
So we're talking about a multi-year contract?
Yes.
How many years?
It's for the remainder of 2013, 14, and 15.
And it goes from 81 to 196 for the next 2 years?
That is correct. On the next 2 years, that 196.2 is per year.
To me, it seems like there's some kind of disconnect. And I think that things need to be connected. All of us need to be on one accord in terms of what the amount is going to be and all of that. How many bids were received on this? Just one?
There was one vendor that was received that qualified. There's only 3 other vendors in a 6-state area that would qualify. And out of that, 2 of those are based in Louisiana, and they did not want to invest the assets here in the state of Mississippi, and so they could not bid.
So the one bid you received was Mississippi-based?
Yes,
Jackson.
and they have a Jackson location on Foley Street. Yes.
And I'm still concerned about the disconnect.
The disconnect, are you talking about the dollar amounts? Is that what you're asking?
The dollar amount, yes.
Okay. The dollar amount, when we originally put the bid out, we
And
originally...
then, excuse me,
Okay.
I think Ms. Wood said one figure came in on Friday. And I think was the closing date for the bid. The closing date was Friday? Okay.
No, that's when I spoke with the owner and got the price that he had given. I assume he had given it to you earlier. He gave me the price.
The price she has is the original bids that were taken. We took this bid in June, okay? And of course, since then, June and July has passed. So the vendor is going to prorate the amount. And if you took the $130,000 and calculated that out, you're going to come up with your monthly figure, which you have to prorate basically on 196.2. Okay? And if you take that number, it brings it down for the remainder of the year to the $81,750.
I see a disconnect, but I think the gap needs to be closed.
Okay, Mr. Williams, then we're going to Supervisor Stokes.
When we started this process, I attended the Mississippi Mosquito and Vector Control Association's spring workshop, and I used information that I got from this, along with this letter that I think each of you got from the State Department of Agriculture, and these were the documents I used and the materials I got to guide my putting together the RFP in the first place. And if you follow these guidelines, you have to adhere to these, and it's not something that we have any wiggle room around. And state law says these services must be performed by a licensed professional according to the regulations of Professional Service Law, Mississippi Code, 1972, Section 69-19-1 through 69-19-15, and corresponding regulations. And there are also all kind of penalties associated with whomever it is not having this, as well as us getting into trouble with EPA if that person is not qualified and they're doing chemicals that harm other things in the environment other than those insects, then we're the one responsible as opposed to that vendor. So I spent 2 days at this workshop, and that's what the information came from when I put together our RFP.
And one other thing I'd like to add to that is we did request a bid bond and also a performance bond throughout the term of this contract, which the vendor did place a $20,000 bond originally on each bid, and that will convert to a performance bond for the term of the contract.
Okay, Supervisor Stokes.
Mr. President, I guess before I get to my question, I'll make my statement first. You know, we've had people who sprayed in the city of Jackson and sprayed in the county. No performance bond, no bid bond required, and they perform their job. It makes you think, and you've heard this over and over again, that they're trying to make people not qualified for the work. You know, anytime blacks try to do work, they always bring up, put something in the game to make sure they don't qualify. Then they say, we can't find any blacks that's qualified. And you know, that's nonsense. If people have been doing the work all these years, then why do you change the word and everything else to make sure people can't perform? And then you say, well, we did this, the bid package, and put all these things in their airplanes, and you know, and Noah, how many black people got airplanes that can spray? You know, even if you don't, well, we didn't mean it, well, it's in the contract. You know, and that lets you know, and it makes you wonder, you know, whether this was a serious effort to try to get a company in here. Secondly, you know, how can you spray you in the county and you 300 yards away from homes and the stuff spraying? That could go anywhere. How can you guarantee the people in the rural area that they're going to get the coverage they need? And you talking about a company that's never done work in this population before, and then you're talking about the areas in Hines County with mayors, you're not going to do anything. So you charging us all this money for less than, less than 20,000 people?
Yeah.
How many people?
He just wrote us that. I mean,
Mr. President, we talking about this in the rural area by itself. Is it less than 20,000?
Yeah, 30,000 plus in the unincorporated area, sir. And we're not just talking about spring, we're talking about a year-round program that includes every step in the life cycle of the mosquito.
I understand that, but we're talking about 30,000 people, and we're charging $190,000 beginning in the next 2 years. And this year we're going to charge $81,000 for 30,000 people. Now you do the math. I still have a motion, Mr. President, to reject all bids. Let's start this over, and I have some more motion.
Okay, Mrs. Calhoun.
Are you saying that we now have new state regulations in regards to mosquito spraying?
Not just state, but also federal, particularly from the EPA, yes.
Could you disseminate that information back to each board member, please?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments regarding this particular issue? There's a motion on the floor from Supervisor Stokes that we reject the bid. It's just one bid. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Okay. Motion passes. Okay.
Mr. President, I have another motion if I can make it now.
Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to, and I don't know if we need to send it back to this group, or we need to get the county administrator to work directly. We were trying to let's get the full impact of another company, of companies looking at it without trying to exclude anybody. But while we wait for that to happen, I move that we hired Mr. Hawthorne. I think we paid him $17,000. How much was Ms. Newman?
It's $17,065.
Now, I happen to ask him, I hope you'll take it that we'll pay him that amount of money for the next 3 months and give us time to work on the new bid and give us time to make sure we have a good spring. That's my motion. So moved.
Okay, it's been moved. Before we go to Ms. Calhoun, got a button on Ms. Calhoun?
Yes, my question to Mr. Williams is this. With new regulations, when do They take effect.
They already in effect.
And what is the penalty, again, to the county if we hire a...
Starting out $5,000 street defense.
Well, Mr. Brown, could we ask Mr. Hawthorne to come forward and tell us whether or not he's legal or not?
If that's your request, we'll honor that. Mr. Williams, I also want to make sure that, have you provided each individual board member those regulations regarding penalties as to what happens?
I'm not certain if the new ones, but in the report I did earlier, I did give it to all of the board members.
Okay.
So he has to provide.
I've been doing this work for over 27 years. I'm licensed, I'm insured, I don't know why they're telling y'all what they're telling y'all, because it's not true. I got all the information, all the license I need to continue to do the mosquito work for the county. I'm doing it now for the city. So I don't know how they can stand up there and tell y'all that ain't nobody that's qualified.
Okay.
With my follow-up question, Mr. President, was, would you do it for the 3 months that we needed for which they paid you last year?
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
And you will not have any problems out of it either. I don't know why anybody else ain't checked. But,
And you say you're spraying for the city now?
yes,
I think with the people they try to recommend, y'all doing a joint venture like that?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Calhoun, then Supervisor Hunter.
I would just like to delay taking action until such time we can do our own investigation regarding state regulation versus non-state regulation, so to speak. You say one thing and our employees are saying another, so I would just like to do my own research regarding this matter because I don't want to violate any state regulation.
Do you really think I've been doing this type of work for 27 years?
Yes.
And not be licensed to do
Yes,
what
sir,
I
I
do?
understand. I understand. But what's facing us are new state regulations. And I just,
There's no new state regulation. I don't know how they can sit up and tell you that publicly. I really don't.
Okay.
I'm not going to vote.
Just a second. Okay, one of the things I'd like to weigh in on this, the fact is that we have two individuals telling us two different things. I think that we do have, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to vote to wait until I make sure that I have the right information. If we waited this long, we can wait another 2 weeks because of the fact that I had heard before that we'll be fined the $5,000, and I think that's $5,000 a day, if that's correct. And that's one of the things I wouldn't want to put that on the county. So I need to make sure before I vote as to what I'm going to do, if whether or not that's actually the regulation, that's the regulation that we need to go through as it relates to this, and make sure that we're all bidding on the same thing. We don't want to include everyone, and we don't want to exclude anyone. We just want to do what's right, and that's what we're trying to do here.
I can understand.
Yes, Dr. Walker.
Let me just say this. I think Supervisor Stokes said something like $17,000 a month.
Right.
But if you add that up, that's what, 50 something,
Yeah,
17,
yeah,
which exceeds. Well, we'd have to bid it anyway according to state law.
Correct.
So we could not just arbitrarily hire someone, but it would have to result from a process which would require bid in this case.
Doctor.
Am I correct?
No, sir. This is a professional service, and it does not require a bid. It's a professional service.
We're going to go to Supervisor Hunter and back to Supervisor Calhoun.
I think, the motion to withdraw these and reevaluate the whole RFP. Because one of my concerns is Mr. Williams stated that he goes beyond the spray. He goes to the larval concept of managing mosquitoes. But my concern is how you measure, what measuring stick, how you know how effective it is. So I think we need to look all the way back down through the RFP. I don't have a problem with a contractor responding to the RFP because he responded to what was asked of him. However, I think there's a little gray in the request. So I think we need to get back to that.
Can I say this? In that RFP, you know, you can write a proposal to write people in, and you can write them to write people out if you got buyers. Now, it was something wrong with the way this proposal was put together. Now, I came to the pre-bid conference, and your employee had something in there concerning mosquitoes, and I asked him about it. You wrote the proposal, and he couldn't answer the question, and the other gentleman couldn't answer the question. They got the question answered from Vector, and that question was, is there no specific chemical that kill species of mosquitoes? But yet, in the proposal, they had that in there. He didn't know the answer, so that let me know that that had something to do with putting the proposal.
Well, I want to let's do one thing. Let's stay to the issue. I don't want to try to accuse anyone of anything or not accuse anyone of anything. I just want to stick to the issue, and the issue is mosquito spraying. And I will like to hear from Victor, Mr. Williams. I know that you put together this, but I just want to stick to the issue. The issue is mosquito spraying.
I would like to address the issue of someone accusing me of something.
Yes.
I put together this proposal because I thought it was in the best interest of the county, and I want to do what I thought was the best job to make sure the county got everything that was required. I consulted with the state health department and the CDC when I put this RFP together. It had nothing to do with Vector or anyone else. And I resent anyone accusing me of something I didn't do.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We have a couple of the supervisors, but you're calling for the questions. All right, we have a call for the question. Yes, Will.
Now, we've already voted to reject our bids.
Correct.
Now, the question now would be
The motion was to hire throwing pest control at the
for the next 3 months.
Yes.
Now, let me make sure, because I'm ready to vote, but I think I hear someone ready to from the majority of the board. And, you know.
We didn't get a second.
Okay. Well, we have a call for the question,
So
so
it's not second
Mr.
yet.
President, I think we have an attorney sitting there, and I think this board should be aware that the motion that is on the floor right now.
It's not on the floor, we'll have a second.
Where's that? Attempt. Your motion, if the motion was to pass, the motion legally will be perceived as an attempt by this board to circumvent the law of the RFQ process. And the best thing to do is just simply reject all bids until such time that we can get the opportunity to look at whether or not we must be in compliance with all of the state regulations, or if we can just ignore those regulations.
okay, I think
So the motion, any motion other than to reject these bids, again, will be deemed as circumventing the process.
okay. I think what we're going to do is, since we have a call for the question,
It's not second yet, Mr. President.
okay, is there a second? Is there a second?
I second, Mr. President.
Is there a second? Motion dies for a lack of a second. I think that we will do this. I think that in order to be fair, and this is something I know there's a lot of ideas and thoughts regarding this issue. And the only thing I want to do is to speak to the issue. I think we should allow Vector to speak, since they were the individuals that were approved for this particular item to just let them speak to see if there's any questions that they can answer for the supervisors, and then we will go with the original motion. So if Victor would like to speak, then I want to be fair, allow Mr. Hathorn to speak, I want to allow you to speak, and then we'll go from there. We voted on the issue, then we'll continue with Mr. Bryant. But I want to make sure that we did give both ends sides an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to introduce myself first. I'm Chris New. I'm the contract manager for our contracts in Mississippi. Brett Killingsworth, he's our sales representative for Mississippi. His office is in Jackson. And Carolina Jones, she's our contract supervisor for our Jackson business, and would have been for Hinds County. Our bid was rejected, so I'm just going to speak now as a mosquito control professional and answer some of the questions that were brought up. Supervisor Hunter brought up the question about how do you gauge effectiveness of a mosquito control program. That's one part of a integrated pest management program is surveillance. That's one of the main parts of a program. You have to know what species are present in order to know how to control them. There's different species of mosquitoes. Some bite during the day, some bite in the evening, some bite in the morning. Some don't even bite humans. They come out at different times. If you don't know those answers, you have no way of knowing any kind of efficacy of your program. I know in the past y'all have had a spray program. That's kind of gone away, where you just spray, just because it's the summer and Monday through Thursday we're going to spray. We have no idea what mosquito numbers, what's out there. Those have gone away. That's not proper mosquito control. It's not being a good steward of the environment. We set surveillance traps around the county. Depending on those numbers, we target those areas depending on what species we see. We target it with our wire siding. We would target it with our truck adult siding. And as the year goes on, you have surveillance graphs that show you the ups and downs of the mosquito pressure, and you can see how it's affecting your program based on your wire siding and truck spraying and stuff like that. The question was also brought up about the legality and licenses required. As of 2009, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals overruled a previous ruling that allowed mosquito control to be exempt from the Clean Water Act. And they gave mosquito control professionals 2 years in order to comply with that. And as of 2011, that ruling in April 2011 took place to where all mosquito control practices have to be justified and based on surveillance. You have to, all your truck records, you have to have GPS tracking in your trucks that show where you sprayed, when you sprayed, how much product was applied, how fast you were going. It shows exactly where you were and how much you were spraying to document the pesticide that you apply. Any larvicide sites have to be documented. You have to first dip and prove that there's even larvae in that particular body of water before you apply any pesticides to it. Some bodies of water don't hold mosquito larvae, so you have to. Go ahead.
No.
Okay. You have to identify that there's a problem before you even apply pesticides to the environment. You have to do proper calibration checks on your equipment. You have to perform chemical resistance test, or perform that, to show that you're not getting resistant to certain types of chemical, which can happen, it does happen here in Mississippi, especially in the Delta area. Yes, it's a lot of added paperwork and burden on mosquito control professionals, but it's the proper way to do mosquito control because it makes you justify applying pesticides to the environment instead of just running a spray truck down the street with no no records or anything, which is what the county has had in the past and what the city of Jackson has had in the past is a spray program. It's different than an integrated mosquito management program. It's not the same thing.
Okay. Supervisor Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President. Do you currently spray for the city of Jackson?
We do.
Do you spray the whole city?
No, sir. We spray the north half of Jackson.
Who sprayed the other parts of Jackson?
Mr. Hawthorne.
So you and Mr. Hawthorne currently spray the city of Jackson?
Yes, sir.
If he was illegal or something, when you bring it up to public works with the city?
No, I worry about what we're doing in our half of the city, and I'm not going to get into a mud, slinging argument with him. I don't know
But
what he
you're telling
does.
us in here today he's illegal. You telling us in here today that he's illegal?
What you have had in the past, as of 2009, if I'm right, was the last time y'all had a full year mosquito spraying program, and yes, that is not legal anymore as of the EPA NPDES permitting. That's the National Pesticide Discharge Elimination System permitting that was put out by the EPA and then adopted by the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality.
Now, what are you doing different than him?
In Jackson, we've gotten into the city of Jackson and started working with them in 2009. I've convinced the city that we need to add surveillance to what we were doing to see what mosquito species.
Okay, well, we have Mrs. Calhoun, then Supervisor Hunter.
You all have separate contracts, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. It's not a joint venture, it's completely separate.
Okay. Mr. Hunter.
I'm back to the question of, you say that EPA regulated that mosquito spraying and stuff have to fall under the Clean Water Act in 2009?
2009 is when the ruling took place. They gave mosquito control professionals 2 years to come into compliance, and as of April 9th, 2011 is when that came into effect. Kenneth Lord is the contact person with the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, and don't take my word for all this. I mean, I'm a vendor.
But my point is this: you spraying it in non-incorporated areas, and in my mind, all I see is basically county roadways. But I also see private property. Everybody, mostly in the rural, has got a body of water of some sort. I'm just trying to understand how will we be combating those areas.
Well, there's 5 parts to integrated mosquito management program, and that includes source reduction, larviciding, adulticiding, surveillance, and public education. So you take in all those different accounts. You look for places that are breeding mosquitoes, and if you can, eliminate that water site without even applying any pesticide. You'll never get away from running the spray trucks. That's part of it.
Right, I understand that, but I'm just still stuck with private land versus public land.
Well, one part of our programs is we do service requests. We take calls from residents, and if a particular resident of the county calls and allows us to go into their yard, we can go on their yard and look at specific places on their private property that might be breeding mosquitoes.
Okay, there are no more questions. Thank you very much. I guess we'll get with the county administrator. We'll determine where we're going to go from this point. Thank you very much. Mr. Bryant, if you would, just go ahead and continue.
Ms. Woods, Budget and Finance Coordinator.
Good morning, I think. Still kind of morning.
Okay, good morning, President Graham and members of the board. I have one item for your consideration on the budget and finance, and that's the approval of the funding agreement for the Jackson Music Awards.
Okay.
And under that agreement, they would like to be exempt from the dual funding clause.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Mr. Bryant, continue.
There's no Emergency purchases, admitted insurgents as listed.